Now, what else can we do to make this car look more exciting? Well, one thing that's very, very important in any kind of photography, and that includes still life photography, is camera height. Now, where we are at the moment, we're looking down on our product, and you can see quite easily, I think it's a toy car, because you don't see real cars from this height unless you're standing on a bridge looking down on them or something, or looking out of a window. Let's make this car look more punchy. And the way we do that is to adopt what is known in the trade as a heroic camera position. That is where we're actually looking up at the subject. Now, when you look up at the subject, of course, you see far less of the top of it. That doesn't always matter. When you look up at it, what it does is it makes that item look more important. In other words, look like a hero. So, for example, if I was photographing a tin of baked beans, and trust me, I've photographed lots of tins of baked beans, I'm not going to look down on it. Looking down on it will show that it's got a top to it and show the depth of it, but everybody knows what a tin of baked beans looks like. So I tend to photograph them heroically, i.e. looking up at them to make them look important, domineering, anything except submissive. So that when people see that tin of baked beans, they think of it as a big tin of baked beans, not just an ordinary little tin of baked beans. Let's do the same thing with the car. Let's move our camera right down to a position where it shows a heroic viewpoint. So the camera is now actually looking slightly up at the car, and this will really make it look like a hero. Now, I haven't changed the lighting at all. The lighting's exactly the same as it was before. I may need to make some changes there, but we'll think about that in a minute. Let's try a shot with the camera right down here looking up at the car. Well, the first thing we notice, apart from the much more dramatic effect, is that the reflection of the car is much, much stronger than it was. This is all just down to camera angle. Okay, we're now getting, I think, the beginnings of a usable shot. There are lots of other things we can do, of course. We could change the background totally. We don't have to have a reflective background at all. You don't come to that. You don't actually need to have a plain background. You could build a road. If you do, you've got to be very, very careful to use a road that is made up of very, very fine material. You can't use pebbles or something because they look like boulders in a shot this size. You could also use sand. You know, if you were to spread wet sand on the shooting table and smooth it over, get it very, very smooth, you can make it look as if the car's driving across a desert or along the front of a seashore. I've done this with real cars many, many times. To be honest, this isn't the right sort of car for it. The right sort of car for it, of course, is a Land Rover or something similar. Okay, let's move on a little bit. What else can we do with this type of product shooting table? Well, we can introduce light from different directions. One thing we can do is we can place a light underneath the table, shining up through it. Now, okay, it's probably not appropriate for this type of shot, but it is a good idea to show you what we can achieve. I've now placed a light directly underneath the car, so the light is shining through the acrylic shooting table. Before we go any further at all, I'm going to place a very heavy cast iron weight on the stand, because otherwise it will probably fall over, and these things aren't cheap when they fall over. Well, as you can see, that's seriously overdone, but you get the idea. Let's put a neutral density gel over it to reduce the light power. At the same time, I'm going to turn off the modelling light so that the gel doesn't get over hot. I've now reduced the lighting power by 1.5 stops using neutral density gel. As you can see, it's now lessened the effect. It's still a little bit white underneath. Now, you use this effect if you're going to crop it so that you didn't show any reflections at all, or you might turn the lighting power up slightly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a blue gel over that underneath light, which will give us quite an interesting lighting effect. A bit weird and wonderful. And so I'm not saying you should use this type of effect, but it's something well worth considering. And here's our blue gel. Now, if we want to increase that effect, we simply give less exposure to the light coming from beneath. as with this one. Okay, there's lots of other things we can do as well. Let's try something else now. Well, you can create special effects of your own. If you have an assistant who can blow some cigarette smoke around the car, you've got this sort of misty effect, or you can use steam. I use a little steam cleaner for this, which is quite effective. And now I've moved the car to a different angle entirely, so the car is now coming straight at us, or pretty much. Of course, I've had to move the honeycomb grid light as well, because the position of the light controls the effect very, very precisely, so it's got to be in the right place. I've still got the camera square on, or more or less square onto subject. Of course, if we want to give an illusion of speed, we can change the angle of the camera as well. Let's do that in the next shot.